Hello friends, let us continue our discussion on creep mechanism. In the previous lecture, we got ourselves introduced to what a creep mechanism is or what characterizes a creep mechanism. Generally, in the study of creep and its representation, we assume two aspects or two parameters to be constant. So for the conventional representation involving a strain and time, we assume that the stress all through the testing period and also the temperature is constant. Now when you want to study the material behavior with respect to the creep testing, there are two ways to go about it. So one way is to study for a given test under the different stages which material behavior is responsible for which stage. So we have different stages in a creep behavior of the material. So depending on the evolution or the change in the dimension of the material with respect to time, or particularly the rate at which this change is observed, we can categorize the overall creep curve into different stages, and we have studied which behavior is responsible for each of these stages. The other way of studying is by varying the parameters that we have assumed to be constant. That is, we can vary the stress and or the temperature. So by varying these two, we can study the behavior that is dominant overall the creep duration. So instead of focusing our attention on just one creep curve, when we vary these parameters, that is stress and or the temperature, what we end up having is, for different set of these parameters, we have different creep curve, and for different creep curves, it is possible that there is a specific behavior of the material that is dominant, and that we refer to it as the mechanism or the creep mechanism. So the characteristic variable based on which the creep mechanism varies is the stress and temperature. So depending on the combination of the stress and temperature that we consider or that we initialize our creep testing with, the dominant behavior for a given material would vary, and that dominant behavior is what we refer to as the creep mechanism. Now we have seen that for a combination of stress and temperature, it is not that only one behavior will be dominant or one mechanism would be dominant. It is possible that two or three mechanisms can be operational for a given set of stress and temperature, and they can either operate simultaneously or operate one after the other. And based on the way they operate, the nature or the expression that is used to calculate the overall creep rate also varies. We saw those expressions in the previous lecture. Now, in addition to that, we saw that when we talk about for a given mechanism, for a given curve with characteristic stress and temperature, we saw that the rate that we often consider is confined to the steady state condition, because that is the dominant one that we see when we talk about the overall creep curve. So these all we covered in the previous lecture. We also introduced two of the creep mechanism that is often observed under a definite combination of stress and temperature. For instance, when we have a case wherein we have high stress or low temperature. So here it is important to note that these terms high and low that qualify the conditions of stress and temperature, they are relative, or rather they are subjective to the material that we study and also the conventional representation of the creep curve. So when I say that this particular mechanism operates for a high stress or a low temperature, it means in relation to a particular material and also in relation to the characteristic stress and temperature which gives us the conventional creep curve. So for this combination of high stress or low temperature for a given material, a relative one, we saw that the mechanism that is dominant is referred to as the dislocation glide. So dislocation glide is the mechanism that is dominant when you have the condition of high stress and low temperature. So this dislocation glide is characterized largely by the influence of stress. So what it means that you have a huge buildup of dislocation or an increase in the dislocation density. Therefore, for a given stress condition, the strain exhibited by the given stress decreases or the rate of strain decreases. However, the role of temperature is involved in this dislocation glide, but it is rather restricted. The role of temperature in the dislocation glide is restricted because the one other condition that we see is that establishes this particular creep mechanism, that is the dislocation glide is the low temperature. So the only possible way under this mechanism, because of the low temperature characterizes or the low temperature feature that introduces this mechanism, is the annihilation. So there is a restricted effect of temperature in this dislocation glide mechanism, and that restricted effect which facilitates the reduction in the dislocation density is through annihilation. So it is through annihilation, and this is largely achieved by the thermal energy that favors or helps the dislocation to overcome barriers and also the activation of new slip systems. So what we have is, in case of dislocation glide, it is dominant in a particular condition of high stress, that is relative again, or low relative temperature. So this particular mechanism is, in this particular mechanism, we have the stress playing a dominant role or the stress having a dominant influence, meaning when you compare the role of stress and temperature, the stress introduces the dislocation and the increase in the dislocation density is rather more pronounced when you compare to the degree of annihilation of it. So this annihilation of the dislocation is brought about by the effect of temperature. The way the temperature brings about this annihilation is by two ways. One is it helps the mobility of the dislocation, thereby enabling their interaction. So when you have the thermal energy imposed by the temperature facilitating or enabling the dislocation to overcome the barriers and move freely, it means you are increasing the interaction between the dislocation, thereby facilitating or increasing the probability of the annihilation. The second way, the temperature plays a role in reducing the dislocation density that is caused by the stress is through the activation of new slip system. When the new slip system are activated by the thermal energy introduced by the temperature, as again for the new slip system the activation energy varies, and this activation energy is compensated by the thermal energy provided by the temperature, and therefore the dislocation are now allowed to move in addition to their original slip system along the new slip systems as well. And when you have additional slip system, the interaction between these slip system also increases, and thereby the probability at which or the probability of the annihilation of the individual dislocations increase. And therefore the role of temperature is present, but it is not present as one would associate with the steady state condition, meaning there will not be an exact balance between the influence of the stress and the influence of the temperature. So that is what characterizes the dislocation glide. So what we have essentially is the imbalance between the influence of stress and temperature, and of these two, for the dislocation glide to be operational, for the mechanism of dislocation glide to be operational, in these two the influence of stress is the dominant one. So this is what we saw in the previous lecture, and this is how we introduced our dislocation glide mechanism. The other mechanism we saw is the dislocation creep mechanism. dislocation creep mechanism. So here we again have the combination of the role of stress and temperature. This dislocation creep mechanism, it is introduced or it is dominant under a condition where you have your average stress and temperature. So under this condition, the mechanism that is dominant in the creep behavior of the material is the dislocation creep. So we have when you initialize a creep testing setup wherein for a given material you have established it, or you have established the setup as with respect to the average stress and the average temperature, the dominant mechanism then would be the dislocation creep mechanism. So what characterizes this dislocation creep mechanism is that there exists a balance between the role of stress and the role of temperature. So what was characteristic about the dislocation glide, that is the imbalance between the role of stress and the role of temperature, is relaxed, and what we now have is the more or less a balance between the role of stress and the role of temperature. So what it means physically is that we saw while the stress component, it increases the dislocation density. So this rho here is the dislocation density. The temperature, it attempts to decrease the rho. So the stress, it increases the dislocation density by the introduction of dislocation, by the plastic deformation that it establishes, and temperature, it tends to decrease the dislocation density. Now we saw in the dislocation glide in the previous mechanism itself that annihilation is possible with the increase in the temperature. So the annihilation, that is the interaction between two positive and negative dislocation that annihilate, and they meet with each other, they interact with each other, and they annihilate each other. So this is one of the possible ways in which the dislocation density can be reduced, and this has already been observed in the dislocation glide mechanism, wherein the role of temperature is not that significant. Even in that, you have this annihilation of dislocation. Now we have a condition where the influence of temperature or the role of the temperature is as important as that of the stress. So in that case, there is an additional mechanism that facilitates the decrease in the dislocation density, and that is nothing but the rearrangement. So we saw in the previous lecture, we have this rearrangement wherein instead of the dislocations being arranged in this manner, because of the increased mobility that is offered to this dislocation by the temperature or the increase in the thermal energy. So we have a definite temperature or rather a high temperature which introduces thermal energy. That thermal energy then increases the mobility of the dislocation by facilitating its by enabling it to overcome the barriers, and by this you have the rearrangement of the dislocations, and this rearrangement of the dislocation or the polygonization will happen in this manner, and thus the overall energy of the system is reduced, meaning you have your compression and tension relation. So these two, they cancel out each other, and the overall energy or the stress introduced by the dislocation is reduced. And on top of it, and more importantly, what happens is within the grain, the amount of dislocation spread all over is reduced, and they are confined to a specific region. So thereby the intergranular region or within the grain, there is enough room for the newly formed dislocation to move around, and thereby enhancing the plasticity of the material. So in this condition, that is the dislocation creep condition, which is introduced by the average stress and average temperature, the role of temperature is more pronounced when you compare it to the dislocation glide, and this the role of temperature facilitates the rearrangement of the dislocations by the increased mobility. This rearrangement or the polygonization of the dislocation confines certain degree of or certain density of the dislocation to a specific region. So it gathers up and it confines a certain amount of dislocation in a specific region, thereby freeing up some space within the grain for the newly formed dislocation, and this enhances the plasticity. So this ultimately you have a balance between the stress and the temperature, or the influence of the stress and the temperature. The stress, it keeps on adding to the dislocation and its migration. The temperature rearranges the dislocation or annihilates the dislocation, thereby allowing the sufficient room for the movement or the propagation of the newly formed dislocation, and thereby enhancing the plasticity, or in a broader sense, the restriction is not of the plasticity is not much pronounced. Now, for this migration or this rearrangement, we saw that the climb of the dislocation is necessary. So from this arrangement to moving, or from this arrangement of the dislocation to shift to this arrangement from 1 to 2. So this would be 2 here, and this would be 1 here. To shift from this arrangement to this arrangement, we need a different movement of the dislocation called the climb. And this climb of the dislocation is dependent on two factors. One is the number of vacancies that are present, and the other is the diffusivity of the vacancies. Now, we have already seen that with increase in the temperature, the equilibrium composition of the vacancies increases, and there is a definite expression for it, an Arrhenius expression for it. This expression is referred to as in this manner, wherein the EF is the energy required for the formation of the vacancies, and we have our thermal energy term, that is Boltzmann's constant, and the temperature. This is the energy required for the formation of vacancies, and this is the overall expression for the equilibrium concentration of vacancies for a given temperature. Therefore, as the temperature increases, the amount of vacancies also increase. And similarly, in addition to the amount of vacancies that are present, since we are talking about the rate of the creep, it is important that the vacancies that are present should be mobile enough in order to establish the rearrangement of the dislocation. So what we are talking about is, we have a definite stress, and the stress keeps on adding the dislocation. If the rate of the addition of the dislocation, if the rate of the increase in the dislocation density is not compatible to the rate of the rearrangement, then what we have is again an imbalance between the effect of stress and the effect of temperature. So in order to have this right balance, the rate at which the dislocation density is increasing, the rate at which the increase or the stress is operating should also be comparable to the rate at which the temperature is also operating, meaning the rate at which the dislocation density is increasing should be compatible to the rate at which the dislocations are being arranged. So for that, you need to have the diffusion of the vacancies also play a definite role. So this dV, which is nothing but the diffusivity of the vacancies, is of this form, is of the similar form of the Arrhenius equation, wherein you can express it as in this manner. There is a negative sign here, and this delta Q is the activation energy, and kappa T again is the Boltzmann's constant and the temperature that relate to the thermal energy. So what we now have is a mechanism of creep that is dependent to a certain degree on the amount of vacancies that are present and the diffusivities of that vacancy. Now we saw that, or one of the factors that characterizes this particular mechanism of creep is the balance between the stress and the temperature. Now when you talk about the influence or the role of stress in the general terms, so the role of stress, when you talk about the role of stress in the general term in the creep behavior, so we have the creep testing of the material or the creep behavior of the material, and in that stress plays a specific role. If you remove the context of the creep testing, then the role of the stress can be referred to as the strain hardening. So the mechanism that, or the changes that the stress introduced during the creep testing, is similar to that of what it introduces during strain hardening. So in general terms, what we have is the stress introducing strain hardening in the material during the creep test. Now the similar effect of, or the similar perspective can also be rendered to the effect of temperature. So that in common terms or without the context of the creep, the effect of temperature on the material which is undergoing strain hardening or which has the increased amount of dislocation density, we refer to that as the recovery. So when you talk about when you consider the influence of stress and the influence of temperature on a material without any context, so we can say that the stress introduces strain hardening, while in a strain hardened material the temperature introduces recovery. So we can try to express or render a generalized expression and relate the strain hardening with that of the creep rate. So meaning we can have a generalized expression, we can relate the factors that govern the strain hardening to that of the creep rate that we observed during the creep test. So this expression can be written as the change in the creep rate when the only operational parameter is the strain hardening, then it can be referred to as the, so this is the expression. So what we are doing is we are, or rather directly introducing or relating the creep rate to that of the strain hardening or the effect of strain hardening. We can do it step by step, meaning instead of relating the creep rate like what we have expressed now, instead of relating this directly, we can do it step by step in order to relate this expression to the creep mechanism that we are studying. So the expression that relates or that can quantify the rate of strain hardening or the strain hardening can be expressed as this here. So what we have here is an expression for strain hardening in terms of stress and strain. So what it means is that with increase in the strain, the amount of stress that is required to produce additional strain increases, which is nothing but the definition of strain hardening, and this can be expressed in this form. So one can quantify, this is rather a partial differential equation. So one can quantify the strain hardening in this manner, where you are talking about the partial change in the stress with respect to the strain, and when there is an increased amount of strain, you need to increase the stress in order to bring about further deformation in the material. So that is what we have here. And similarly, one can also have an expression for the recovery, and this expression for the recovery can be written as, so we are relating this to, or rather we are attempting to relate the strain rate to the recovery, and this can be written as, so recovery is a process where we are attempting to rearrange the dislocation, or we are attempting to increase the plasticity of the material by decreasing the dislocation density. Now what we are essentially doing is, in this process the dislocation density decreases and the plasticity enhances. That means for a given amount of stress, the deformation continues to, we are allowing the material to deform by rearranging the dislocation or reducing the dislocation density, and this happens over a period of time, and that's the reason why we are relating the stress to the time. So the rearrangement occurs either by the influence of temperature, or essentially by the influence of temperature in case of recovery, and this happens over a period of time, and during this period of time the amount of stress that is required to bring about the plastic deformation, it changes, and that is the reason we are relating the stress to the temperature here. Now what essentially we have done is, we have an expression that relates, or we can relate the overall strain rate or the creep rate exhibited by the material to the strain hardening, which can be expressed by this expression here, and we can also relate the recovery or the rate of recovery to the overall strain rate that we observe in the material, and this recovery or its rate is expressed in this form. So we are representing the recovery in this manner and the strain hardening in that manner. Now since the recovery and the strain hardening, they are acting opposite to each other, they are not favoring one particular mechanism, but they are one increases the dislocation density while other reduces it rather, while the strain hardening, it tends to restrict the plasticity of the material, the recovery enhances it. Therefore by convention we would have either a negative sign here or a negative sign here, but the textbooks, they have the negative sign here, so let us adapt it. So for conventional sake, in order to show that the strain hardening and recovery, they have not a complementing effect but a contradicting effect. That is, the strain hardening in terms of dislocation density, it increases it, and the recovery reduces it. Strain hardening increases or restricts the plasticity, recovery enhances it. So we have a convention, through convention we have a negative sign here. Now this particular mechanism that we are talking about, that is the dislocation creep mechanism, we saw it is characterized by the balance between the effect of strain hardening and recovery. So when you want to consider the balance between them, we can take the ratio of the effect of strain hardening, that is, we have expressed this numerically in this manner, and the effect of recovery. So we can express this as something like this. And we have a negative sign here, and this ultimately contributes to the overall creep or the creep rate of the material in the dislocation creep mechanism. So this is just a numerical way of expressing it. That is what we are essentially doing. We know that there is an influence on the strain on the creep rate with respect to the strain hardening. Here we don't know if it is directly proportional or inversely proportional, and here we know there is also an influence of recovery on the strain rate. But what we want to do it, we want to achieve a balance between these particular these different strain effects of stress and temperature. So in order to achieve that balance, or in order to describe that balance, we can take the ratios of these two, that is the effect of the recovery as the numerator, and or effect of temperature as recovery in the numerator, or the effect of stress as strain hardening in the denominator. When you have the balance between the effect of temperature and the effect of strain hardening, so we can write this as R here and S. So when you have the balance between this, then this characterizes the dislocation creep mechanism, and the strain hardening, or rather the strain rate or the creep rate in this dislocation creep mechanism can just be represented or can be numerically expressed in this manner. So what this expression means, or it expresses, is that, or what this expression denotes is that in the dislocation creep you would have a balance between the effect of temperature in the form of recovery and the effect of stress in the form of strain hardening, and this balance is what governs the strain rate. And this is something that is peculiar to the dislocation creep mechanism, and that is exactly what, or that is what we want to denote in the form of a mathematical notations, and that is what we have done here. So what essentially we have done is we have attempted to express the strain hardening as in relation to the stress and strain, and we have expressed the effect of temperature, that is recovery, in terms of stress and time. Now since the dislocation creep is characterized by the balance between the effect of temperature, that is recovery, and the effect of stress, that is strain hardening, this balance can be expressed by taking their ratios, and since this balance is what governs the overall creep rate or overall strain rate during dislocation creep mechanism, we have this expression. So this expression, it denotes, or it shows, or it represents the overall mechanism of dislocation creep. So if someone or if you want to express the dislocation creep mechanism just through a simple expression, this is what it would look like. What we have just done is we have just related the effect of temperature and the effect of stress in the form of recovery and strain hardening. So here we just have shown, or through the mathematical expression, that the strain hardening has an effect on creep rate and the recovery has an effect on creep rate. So both these, they have an effect on creep rate, and depending, for instance, the stress would essentially decrease the amount of creep rate, or the effect of stress alone would decrease the effect of the creep rate that we see in a material. So that is why we have the transient region. So If you want to be more accurate, this would be the inverse ratio. We have 1 by creep rate here. So this would be the reciprocal of the effect of strain hardening. The creep rate would be related to the strain hardening through its reciprocal or its inverse relation, should be written here. But the reason it was directly expressed in this manner is because we just wanted to show there is a relation between the creep rate and the strain hardening, which can be expressed in this manner. But if you want to be more accurate, this should be 1 by this strain hardening relation here. And therefore, when you take the when you couple these two terms here, you would end up with an expression wherein you have the effect of strain hardening at the denominator. Okay, so this is the accurate expression, and we have not considered the accurate expression in the previous case. Is because I just wanted to show that one can relate the creep rate to the strain hardening or the effect of stress, and also one can relate the creep rate to the recovery or the effect of temperature. And this expression here, it just shows how one can express or how one can show the or numerically express the creep or dislocation creep mechanism. So this is the expression that shows that the balance between the recovery and the strain hardening governs the creep rate, and this is what we observe in the mechanism of dislocation creep. So this is an expression that one can use to characterize the mechanism of dislocation creep. So what so far we have seen is, we have seen that in the dislocation creep there is a balance between the effect of temperature and the effect of stress, and to achieve that we need certain amount of vacancies, and these vacancies, they enable a particular movement of dislocation called dislocation climb, and they enable the arrangement of the dislocation. And this arrangement of the dislocation, more than annihilation, it reduces the amount of dislocation in the intergranular region or the dislocation density, thereby facilitating or enhancing the plasticity. And when you want to relate the effect of temperature and the effect of stress in a single mathematical formulation, you can do so by considering the effect of stress and the effect of temperature, that is strain hardening, and recovery separately. The strain hardening by expressing in this form that relates stress and strain, and the recovery by expressing in this form that relates stress and time rather. And once you combine these two, you have an expression that characterizes the dislocation creep. Now we saw, or we can understand that we have several factors that governs the creep rate or the mechanism of creep under in this formulation. That is, when you consider the mechanism of creep, the characterizing parameters, the parameters that govern which mechanism would be dominant, is now the parameters that we assume to be constant in the creep test. So in the conventional creep test, we assume the stress imposed is the constant and the temperature is the constant, and these two parameters, they dictate which is the dominant creep mechanism. Now to add to that, we saw, in order to enhance the effect of temperature, in order to make the effect of temperature felt in the material, we need an increased amount of vacancies, and also in addition to the vacancies, these vacancies should be mobile. That means we should have a significant amount of migration of this vacancy or the diffusivities of these vacancies. So all these factors, so these are the conventional factors that influence the mechanism. These are the additional factors that influence the creep mechanism, or particularly this creep mechanism, that is the dislocation creep. So when you have an expression for a definite expression for the creep rate under dislocation creep mechanism, then it should involve, in addition to these characteristic variables, it should involve either of these variables that dictate the role of vacancies. So when you want to express or derive an expression for the creep rate under the dislocation creep mechanism, wherein the vacancy plays a vital role, then in addition to these characteristic variables that describe any mechanism of creep, you need to have any one of these variables that talk about the vacancies that play a vital role. Therefore, we have seen that the creep rate under this particular mechanism. So again, S here the steady state creep. For this particular diffusion creep mechanism is governed by these three parameters. So when we write an expression for it, we can express it in terms of just the relating these three parameters. So what we have is, we have the influence of temperature, we have the influence of stress, and we have the diffusivities. So the expression can be of this form. So we have all these parameters that are involved. We have our dt, we have our dV, we have our temperature, we have our stress. So we know that the stress influences the strain rate, we have the influence of temperature on the strain rate or the creep rate, and we have the diffusivity of vacancies. So there has been a definite expression that has been arrived for this particular creep mechanism, or the strain rate under this particular creep mechanism, and that definite expression would look something like this. By considering different, making different assumptions and having a representative setup, people have been able to derive at a definite expression for the dislocation creep mechanism, and that definite expression would involve all these parameters here, that is the diffusivity of vacancies, temperature, and stress. And this is written as so this is the expression, or this is rather the definite expression for the creep rate under the dislocation creep mechanism. And here, in order to have a generalized set of expressions that can be used for any material, we have an exponent n. So what are these terms that comprise of this expression? Let us see. So we have the Boltzmann's constant and the temperature that cumulatively contribute to the thermal energy that is introduced by the temperature. And now we know that this is the diffusivity of the vacancies, and this here is the stress, and A is a constant of proportionality that relates the creep rate to all the variables that we have in this side here. And this G is the new one, and that is nothing but the shear modulus. So what we have is, we have all the parameters that govern the creep dislocation creep mechanism, that is the temperature we have the stress, there is a balance between temperature and the stress, and we have the dislocation or the diffusivity of vacancies that enables the climb of the dislocation, thereby facilitating the enhanced plasticity of the material. And in addition to all these, we have a new term, that is the shear modulus, and the reason shear modulus is introduced because it enables the non-dimensionalization of the stress here, or the normalization of the stress factor here. So if you could consider the modulus or shear modulus is nothing but the shear stress by its strain, and since strain is a dimensionless parameter, all the unit of the shear modulus would be that of the shear stress, and since shear stress and the stress here are the same unit, they both cancel out each other, and the reason we have the modulus term here is to have a non-dimensional parameter or the non-dimensional stress component that is influencing the creep rate. So this is a typical expression for the role of strain rate, or that the expression that presents the strain rate under the diffusion creep mechanism. So what we essentially have is, when you ignore all these constants, if you assume that for a constant temperature, and for the constant temperature you have a constant diffusivity, so ultimately what you end up having is, the creep rate is proportional to the nth power of the stress. So the creep rate under this particular creep mechanism, that is the dislocation creep mechanism, is proportional to the nth power of the stress. Now one can also express it in numerous ways, or you can also derive at this expression. So in order to derive that, we can consider the expression for dV, or the dislocation or the diffusivity of the vacancy. This is nothing but d naught. So delta Q, which is the activation energy, d naught is a constant, and kappa T is again the thermal energy that is introduced into the system. When you substitute this expression 2 in 1 here, so the way we can rewrite the strain rate is, particular at the steady state condition, is that we can consider, we can take away these constants here, we can couple these constant to all the other constants and write it as a bar. So now instead of a, we have a bar, and a bar would have all the constants, that is shear modulus, and kappa and t, all these constants will be there. And what we are doing is we are replacing the diffusivity expression with this, and therefore this constant here will also be a part of this a bar. So we are expanding the constant a here, or the proportionality constant a bar here. We are because both these are constant, we can expand it and we can include all the other constant terms. So ultimately what you would end up having is an expression something like this. So you have taken out your g as well, and you have included it to be constant because it is a material constant. So all that you have done, and you have arrived at an expression wherein the strain rate apart from this constant here is governed by the stress and the activation energy. And if you can get rid of this activation energy and the constant, then you can express the strain rate as proportional to the nth power of the stress that you have imposed. So this is the power law expression for the creep, a natural power law expression for the creep. And this we have arrived at for the diffusion creep mechanism. So we have a specific mechanism, and for that specific mechanism we were able to arrive at this expression wherein the creep rate, for when you assume all the other conditions to be constant, then the creep rate is related to the stress in this manner, where stress is to the power of n. If you want to normalize the stress with respect to that of we make it non-dimensional, then you could include the shear modulus here, and then your expression for the creep rate would be something like this. So when you have an expression something like this, then what ultimately you would change is the change in the constant that is present here, or that you would include here. So when you have the normalizing term, that is the shear modulus in the denominator, then you have to include that in the constant. So ultimately you have an expression, a simple expression that shows how stress affects the creep rate under the specific mechanism of the dislocation creep. So under the dislocation creep, for the considerations that we have, for the variables that we have, we were able to arrive at this simple expression wherein we can relate the creep rate to that of the stress. Now when you plot this expression or this relation, that is, you consider the creep rate along the y-axis and the normalized stress or the normalized influence of stress along the x-axis, that is sigma by g, you could see that the curve looks something like this. So it would have three regions. Region 1, or maybe draw it more clearly. So when you plot the creep rate versus the stress curve, when you calculate the creep rate for different combinations of stresses and you plot it, you would end up with a curve like this, wherein you would have three regions. And the first region, in the first region, the n is equal to 1, and in the second region, the n is more or less equal to 5. So when you, for different cases of stresses, and you calculate the appropriate creep rate and you plot it, you have, for a given material, you would have three sections. In the first section, the n would be equal to 1, meaning in this section 1, what you would have is the creep rate is proportional, directly proportional to the stress or the normalized stress. So this here characterizes the section 1, and in the section 2 you have the power or the n term, the exponent term reaches to 5, and this is the second region, and in the third region the overall power relation, it breaks up. So you have three different regions when you plot the stress and the corresponding creep rate. In the first region, you have that you see that the exponent term is equal to 1 and the creep rate is directly proportional to the stress without any exponents. In the second region, the exponent is equal to 5. The influence of creep or the stress is more pronounced in the creep rate, and finally your overall power law it vanishes off, or the power law becomes more it no longer describes the relation of the creep rate and the stress. So the reason why we see this different section is because in the initial stages, when n is equal to 1, there is a considerable amount or the right amount of balance between the effect of temperature and the stress. So when you have more or less an exact balance between the amount of temperature and the stress, or a considerable balance between the amount of temperature and the stress, then the n is equal to 1 and the creep rate in this region, within this region, is directly proportional to the stress. So in this region, for these ranges of stress, the temperature and the stress, more or less, they have a definite balance between them. Now in the second region, the imbalance is introduced. The stress begins to play a dominant role, and therefore the exponent term, it increases, and more or less it is around the range of 5. So all these are experimental results, so people have tried to fit their results to these particular exponent, and that exponent is 5. And so what it means is that the effect of stress beyond this point here, so beyond this point here, it becomes more pronounced, meaning there is an introduction in the imbalance between the effect of temperature and stress. And beyond this point here, there is a considerable introduction of the imbalance, and thereby it is no longer the dislocation creep mechanism. So what we have seen is, so far we have seen what characterizes the dislocation creep mechanism. Based on those factors which characterize them, we were able to arrive at two sets of expression for the dislocation creep, or to characterize the dislocation creep. The first set of expression is just to show or just to write how, or just to have some sort of a numerical way of expressing the dislocation creep mechanism, and that is we just related here. In here, what we have is just a numerical way of showing or expressing the dislocation creep mechanism. That is, we show that there can be a balance, or this particular mechanism is based on the balance between the effect of temperature and the effect of stress on the creep rate, and that is exactly what we have shown here. So in this mechanism, when we want to talk about this mechanism or the creep rate in this mechanism, all you have to consider is the balance between the effect of temperature as recovery and the effect of stress as strain rate. So this is just a generalized expression. If you want to have a specific expression that includes all the parameters that govern the dislocation creep mechanism, then we introduced, in addition to the stress and temperature that characterizes any mechanism, we introduced the diffusivity term. We arrived at an expression for the creep rate that includes temperature, stress and the diffusivity. We rearranged the expression, and we saw that the creep rate under the diffusion creep or the dislocation creep mechanism is of this form. The overall expression can be simplified, and the relation between the creep rate and the stress can be expressed in this form. And now when you try to plot the creep rate for different conditions of stress, you would arrive at a curve something like this, wherein you have three different sections. In the first section, for the lower range of the creep, there is a considerable balance between the effect of temperature and the effect of stress. Therefore the n is equal to 1 here, and when you increase the stress, the imbalance is introduced between the effect of stress and temperature. Therefore the exponent changes and it reaches the value of 5. Finally, when you have a larger creep section, in that case the overall mechanism fails, or the consideration that we arrived or we used, or the assumptions that we used to arrive at this expression fails, then it is no longer bound by the power law. So these are the ways we can express or denote the dislocation creep mechanism, the one of the creep mechanism, or the creep mechanism that is dominant when you have a setup with average temperature and the average stress. So we will see other creep mechanisms that are possible under different combination of stress and temperature in the subsequent lectures. So we will see ourselves in the next lecture. Bye.